In April 2012, a group from St Mark's Church, Haydock, visited Paraguay. St Mark's has been supporting Bishop Peter and Sally Bartlett for the last 2 years, and as a church felt it was time to go and see what's been happening, and also the bishop wanted us to share what Lake and River Church is and how it works for us. A group of 6 took up this challenge, and here is a short video to share some of the things that have happened and what the next step is for us. Paraguay is a larger but less populated country than the UK. The northern part of Paraguay is mostly dry scrubland called a Chaco. This is populated by a number of tribal Indian communities. Many people in the area make their way to the richer and more fertile south, and particularly the cities Concepcion and Asuncion. We spent our time in Asuncion and its outskirts. Asuncion is a developed city. It is poorer than, but in many ways very similar to any city here in the UK. Supermarkets, local shops, good restaurants and a public transport system, and good roads. Housing too was generally good. There is a slum or shanty town along the edge of the river, which is overlooked in part by the governmental buildings and presidential palace. It has a high crime rate and high poverty and very poor housing. There are some very good schools, although the majority of local people only ever attend a local state school, and their education is limited. Paraguay, as an independent nation, is only 200 years old. They are very proud of their hard-won independence, but still learning how to run, lead, and manage a nation. Here we see some of the accommodation that the church is provided for us while we were in Paraguay. For the first week we were placed at Roque Alonso Church. Here you see our green garden and the team relaxing by the church, which was right next to us. And here is our front door with the holes included, and we move into our kitchen diner, and here we see one of the most important things, bottles of water. And then we move through curtain 1 to the girls' room, where we see Sandy and Amanda just preparing the room, and to the right we see Princess Sue's bed, which is also a mosquito net. And then we slowly move into the boys' room, who still had not unpacked, apart from Ricardo, where we see his cosmetics there. He came very prepared, and here is our shower, which was very different from British ones, poor wiring, disco lights, and in Paraguay you do have a toilet, but unfortunately you don't put toilet roll down there, you put it in the bin provided, and this was our accommodation. In Paraguay, the team led 2 conferences. The first was held locally at Roque Alonso on our first Thursday and Saturday evenings. The second was in the cathedral on our second Friday evening and Saturday daytime. We taught the local church people and leaders about St Mark's Church story of growth, lake and river, cells and clusters, and we gave them examples of different ministries and our ways of creating and working with the community. We were heavily involved in church services while we were out there. On our first Sunday we were welcomed into our host church, San Juan in Roque Alonso. Mark preached with Sue and Sandy sharing their testimonies. We also sang 2 songs as part of our team introductions. On the second Sunday we split into 2 groups of 3. Mark and Richard preached in the cathedral, where Sue led the prayers, and Amanda led the other team in the English-speaking chapel service, where Joe gave his testimony and Sandy led the prayers. On the second Thursday, we joined the missionaries at Peter and Sally's for a birthday barbecue, Peter's birthday. There are about 30 to 50 missionaries based in Asuncion. Most are either American or English. Richard, helped by Sandy and Mark, led some teaching for them on the need of boundaries of work and rest, and the need of a good support network, and their own time to be fed. Remesito is a church planted by the King of Kings Church. It's on the edge of the Chaco, where the land is still fertile and rich. It has about 70 members, plus their children. On Saturdays, the church gathers about 80 children for a meal, shower, teaching about Jesus, and games. Most of the children are from the wider community, and the number is growing.
The kids are having lunch every Saturday here, but the idea is that when that's finished, they can have it there, because this is the church building. And many of them have to eat on the floor because they don't have enough chairs and tables. Yeah, they need to wait for the plates and they get help from an organization here called Jesus Responde, and every month they are getting help from them and as well from the church.
The church is currently and slowly building a room at the back to help cope with this number. They were hoping to get the roof on the week after we visited them. We gave them about £2,000 from our harvest collection in 2010.
Very grateful for your help from your church at St. Mark's.
Yep.
Sweet. They've managed to buy a lot of stuff to finish the...
Yesterday as we were driving back, there was this little boy, only about this big, who was going up to the cars at the traffic lights begging. And last night when the rain woke me up, all I could see was this little boy who, when the lights changed, he went and stood at the side, just waiting for them to change so he could go back, and that really affected me.
The highlights for me is talking to Peter and Sally, and I think particularly with Peter, seeing him get excited in a very calm way, because this is Peter we're talking about, but excited about how the pastors are taking on board and being interested in what we're talking about and how he can see where they could go and what they could do. And that's really good to see him have that sort of sense that we're partnering with him and Sally in this and giving fresh vision for the pastors, which ties in with what he can see could happen. So that's been really good.
Mind-blowing, life-changing, frightening at times, well out of my comfort zone, but I'm glad I stepped out.
More stuff, step out my comfort zone, a lot more, and just get some more independence.
We originally linked up with St Mark's. I knew some people there anyway, but when we actually formed a link with St Mark's, the church was very anxious to actually be involved in an active way as well. And so this is all part of this process. And I think it was very important as well to establish a link that had this kind of spiritual dimension as well, rather than a team coming here and putting up some buildings or doing practical things. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but I think I was very keen for the team from St Mark's to be able to share some of their experience, how God's led them, and to offer their experience and their experience of how God has worked and grown the church here. I think that's very important for people in the church here to hear. I think ideas have been planted. I mentioned in one of your sessions at the end, as you had done, it's not a case of trying to copy what you have done, but you, I think, have left behind particularly values and principles that can be applied cross-culturally, because they're biblical values and biblical principles which are applicable wherever in the world. And I hope it has opened people's minds to new ways of doing church and new ways of reaching people, and understanding that at the bottom line the most important thing is that people encounter God, and that there are all sorts of ways that can happen. there are particular times, I think sometimes particular times when there are difficult issues or difficult situations when Sally and I are very aware that people are praying for us. Prayer is an absolutely vital part of support, as well as obviously people keeping themselves informed of what's going on. I think a second mission trip can be used to follow up what you already talked about, and certainly my concern would be that another mission trip would also concentrate on promoting values and principles that are biblical and godly and that can serve to help the church move forward here. That's certainly my underlying concern with whoever comes here, that they have something to share spiritually that takes the church forward.
Quite like living in Paraguay. I've tended to like living wherever I've lived. I do miss St Helens, I have to say. I've lived in lots of different places. I guess I know it's where God wants me to be at the moment. I enjoy making relationships with people and helping people to know Jesus. There's plenty of opportunity to do that here, so I'm a happy camper here, yeah. I guess your team being here and sharing with some of those groups, those groups have appreciated that, and certainly the groups the two groups that I was involved in that the team came along to, the response of the women was, "Oh, well, do come back," because people like to have a relationship that lasts, is long-term, short-term relationship. Pray for us, and pray really for a growing development of leadership within women's groups, because it's a matriarchal society that functions as you have a powerful woman that's in charge of everybody else, and that often means that the other women don't develop their gifts, or they don't move into leadership roles. So we do have lots of challenges in our women's groups, and women, although they kind of like to be running everything, a lot of women do live hard lives, and their individual stories are difficult. And without Jesus, life is tough, very tough at times for most women. So that hasn't really answered your question.
Thank you.
And thank you for being here. I've overheard a lot of people say that they hope that you'll come back, and I think the one thing I would add that I think has been lovely in the situations where I've been is people have been watching your team and have been struck with how amongst the six of you, although you're two different sexes, and you're a variety of different ages, and yet the unity between you is very evident, and that has been a powerful testimony in situations where you've been during these last 2 weeks. So thank you very much, guys.
Bliss!